Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. We're just going to wait for a few more minutes to wait for the remaining participants. Okay, so we are going to start. Welcome, everyone, to this webinar on Forward College's own Open Bachelors. So, this is a bachelor's that is both designed and awarded by Forward College, and it works in a very specific way that allows you to explore several interests while choosing then to specialize later on in your degree. Today, we are going to have a thorough explanation of how everything works with the Open Bachelors by Dr. Paul, the head of the Open Bachelor's degree. I myself am Joanna. I'm an admissions officer here at Forward College. And we will also have Lauren, our first year student at the Open Bachelors and also a student ambassador. So, Paul, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure, thanks, Joanna. Hi, everyone. I'm really glad to be able to meet you and hopefully start the journey of coming to the Open Bachelors. It's a really exciting time for Ford College to be launching its own degree. We're already in the first year now. I'm the head of the Open Bachelors degree, and it's something that's been a labor of love over the past couple of years. So I'm really excited to give you the tour through it. And of course, I'll be happy to answer any questions you've got.
Thanks, Paul. And Lauren?
Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Lauren. As Joanna mentioned, I'm a first year student currently based in Lisbon, and yeah, we're a part of the first cohort in the Open Bachelor's program.
We are going to, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so it is something that is very different from most other types of university degrees. That's the first thing I'd want to say to you. And what I mean by that is that normally when you join a university for a degree, you are put on a set path into specializing into that subject. And if you ever want to switch halfway through, even through your first year, you have to go back to the start of your journey and then pick it up again from the very start. So the Open Bachelors has a different kind of approach to that in terms of making the best of the liberal arts model from the US, but with still the academic rigor of what we have. So what this means is that we're going to look at yeah, I'm just going to leave that slide if that's great. Well, I'll explain that in a second. We're going to look at how we can build your course interests and whilst also exploring, and then we'll look at what that might mean for choosing majors and minors later on. So essentially, the take-home message is you can explore around different subjects whilst also starting to concentrate on things that you're really interested in. And if you're careful with your course choice and you have lots of different options open to you, by the end of your first year, you'll be, sorry, Joanna, could you go back a slide? You'll be able to look at your entire courses that you've done and then choose the major that you want to specialize in. So the first part of the Open Bachelors is in terms of how flexible it is in terms of coming in, not prescribing you to any cert and any set subject, whilst also being able to look at things you're interested in and explore things around it. The second thing that's really unique about the Open Bachelors is the emphasis that we put on the different human intelligences which we have here. So I'm just going to spend a bit of time just explaining what these mean, these four dimensions. Essentially, the first one in the top left is the one that is mostly done in, I would say, most university degrees, and it's kind of the only one that I would say is being looked at in the majority. So cognitive intelligence is typically thinking about how the world works, how different disciplines are going to apply their frameworks, their knowledge, their research to real world events. And it's going to train you into things like critical thinking, analytical thinking, problem solving, and decision making. So this is kind of the typical and perhaps the more suspect way of thinking about intelligence is it's all about your cognitive functions. Now, just to say at the outset, we will definitely train and develop your cognitive intelligence through the Open Bachelors. But that's not the only thing that we're going to do. Because we strongly believe, especially in a post-AI world, that one cannot just be good at being cognitively intelligent. You need to be practically intelligent. You need to be socially intelligent. And you need to be emotionally intelligent too, to be able to not just function well, but also to succeed in whatever venture you want to do, whether that's going on into master's programs, whether it's going into graduate programs, or even into further study. So, social intelligence we're going to develop with you through the Open Bachelors. And these things are not add-ons, these are developed through the courses that you're taking. So, if you're taking a course in economics, If you're taking a course in statistics, you will get cognitive intelligence, but also social intelligence as well. You'll work in groups. You'll be doing some collaboration. You'll be thinking about influence when you're doing group projects, and you'll be thinking about how can you excessively communicate your cognitive intelligence. So these things are all interlinked. So aligned to that, we can also think about practical intelligence. We can think about the design skills, project management, being able to use technologies, being able to use AI, which is of course a huge thing at the moment, and we are embedding that into all of our courses and the way that we're thinking about learning. And of course, data analysis is a big part of that too, and coding and social networking. So being practically intelligent is super important. And again, that is built in and baked into the courses. And then finally, being emotionally intelligent, being able to have this growth mindset and being resilient, but also being self-aware, being aware of the impact that you might have on others, and being able to communicate in a way that shows that you are empathetic to others, but also lead empathetically as well. So all of these things we will develop with you. So the Open Bachelors is not just about developing your cognitive intelligence in a way that is best suits your interests. We will develop all the other things with you as well. So how does that look like? Well, the headline figures or the headline things that I want to say is we have currently four majors that we have. We currently have three, but we're launching a fourth one in September 26. I always get that wrong. So we currently have the management and innovation major, we have the economics major, and we have the politics and international relations major. So these three are the three things or the three areas that our current students will be able to specialize in as a major. And no matter, and we'll see this in a moment, but no matter what flavor of the Open Bachelors you go for, you will need to have one major, at least one major. Most students will have one major. From September, we will be launching the data science and AI major. So that will be another option that will be added on. But also you can think about minors. Now, minors are not required, but you can pick them up. And minors are not things you have to declare. You don't have to have one, but essentially you could have a minor in psychology, a minor in leadership, or indeed a minor in economics, a minor in management, lots of different things. So you can really pick and choose, you can customize the blend of your courses, which across the 3 years will give you a major in a subject area that you are interested in, and potentially a minor that is again is something you're interested in. So this idea of freedom to explore in year one, it is conditional freedom. It's not open freedom because we will, from the very day that you start, you'll be thinking about, okay, if I want to do a major in economics, you kind of have to do the economics course from day one. But that's not to say that's the only major that's open to you, especially if you're an if you're a bachelor's plus or a double bachelor's, as we'll see in a moment. You can leave lots of options open to you in terms of what majors you want to go down. Now, at the end of the first year, we'll ask you to confirm which major you'll be doing in year two and year three. And after that, okay, there's still a little bit less flexibility, but even if you're confirmed as an econ student in year two and year three, you can still choose politics, you can still choose leadership, you can still choose psychology. So again, you can customize the flavor of your degree according to your own preferences. So it's specialization, freedom, but just be careful with course choice. And again, I'll say something about that in a moment. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is we are designing these courses with a lot of intellectual rigor, a lot of practical skills built into them, and again the social and the emotional intelligences as well. These are the things that will be looked for in terms of when you apply for a graduate job or for a go to postgraduate study. The third thing that I want to say is that we are very innovative. We don't just think about our econ, our data science, or our politics as being kind of the traditional views of what you would find in older textbooks. We really are trying to confront the most pressing issues in the world with the most up-to-date research corpus of each subject. So it might sound that this is a kind of a flexible and modern and very applied, but it is still very academically rigorous. And I would say that, well, I should have said at the beginning, I'm an economist. So I can say with absolute certainty that the content of the economics courses, which I'm very sure is the case of the other subjects as well, in the Open Bachelors, represents where the research is now and what economists are actually doing now. And I would argue, moreover, than most other universities. And we're applying this to the pressing issues of climate change, AI, inequality, all these kinds of things. And you'll be confronting this from day one, not just leaving this interesting stuff for the end of your studies, which is typically what's done in many other universities. In terms of accreditation, we are fully accredited in terms of this degree by the French government. So just like any other degree from any other country, it will be recognized by prospective employers and prospective graduate programs as a recognized high education degree from the French state. So I mentioned a little bit before about the different kind of flavors of open bachelors that you want to have. So the way that this works is you can choose to either have the bachelors, single bachelors, just the plain vanilla flavored if you want, and that means you'll do 5 courses per term. It's technically 4 courses per term plus a language course. So you'll do 4 main courses plus one extra. But essentially, you're still doing 5 different things each term, so it's 5 courses. That's going to be the case in term 1 and in term 2. In term 3, slightly different. I'll show you what it looks like later, but that's the headline. 5 courses per term. 4 of them are going to be more academic. One of them is going to be a language course. That means if you're going to do a vanilla flavored open bachelor's, you can do 1 major, maybe have 1 minor by the end of your 3-year degree, and that's worth 180 ECTS credits. Now, if you wanted to increase your options in terms of what majors you can do and also what courses you can pursue, then you can do the Bachelor's Plus. This essentially adds 1 extra slot per term for your 3 years. It means you're going to accumulate 220 ECTS across the 3 years, and it means you could have 1 major and maybe up to 2 minors. And then if you want to go for the full, all out, all guns blazing, or the full bells and whistles, double bachelors, that means you'll be doing 7 courses per term, 6 academic plus 1 language course. That could lead you up to 2 majors, maybe 1 minor, and it's 260 ECTS. So again, there's flexibility not only in the open bachelor's program, but also in the kind of open bachelors that you want to have. The more that you want to do in terms of the number of courses, it gives you more flexibility. You can explore more courses without there being trade-offs to make against, you have to maybe forego 1 course because you want to leave the econ option open to you. But at the same time, the more courses you do, it will be more difficult. It's more challenging. I want to be upfront about that. So it's this trade-off that you have to make and you have to be happy with. But at the end of the day, it's a fantastic opportunity if you feel like you're ready for the double bachelor's version to be able to explore much more deeply than perhaps a single bachelor's student would be able to do. So, in terms of the curriculum, what does it actually look like? This might sound hopefully okay, but what does this mean in practice? Well, we have a range of different courses. So I just want to show you from year 1 what the courses look like. And Lauren can either hopefully agree here or hopefully not disagree. But we essentially have different types of courses going on. Now, most courses are going to be optional. It's up to you which courses you pick. In term 1, there is one compulsory course that everyone has to do. which is a statistics course, but it's not really like a statistics heavy course. It's the emphasis is really on being practically intelligent. So we get you using really modern data analysis tools like R from the very beginning. And we're also going to be putting an emphasis on being able to visualize data because, again, thinking about practical skills, or it's also about being able to communicate your understanding. So it's a stats course, but at the same time, we think it's really important that everyone has a base understanding of how data is constructed, how it's analyzed, how it can be manipulated, and how it should be visualized for maximum impact. So that's in term one. Everyone has to do that one. The second compulsory course is in term two, which is about exploring the future. And it's more about a design thinking exercise, pulling together different types of disciplines. And it will lead on to what you'll be doing in term three, which is going to be a professional certification and a capstone course. But apart from that, it's up to you. If you want to do, for instance, the economics of people, where it's not just for econ students, it's also for anyone interested in how, for instance, women are counted in the labor force and maybe are discriminated against, but also feminist perspectives in economics, then that would be a good course for you. If you wanted to do, hey, I've never done politics, I've never done politics before, but I'm interested in doing political science, you can do that. If you want to talk, if you've never done psychology before, then why not do the course on how we think and learn, which is kind of a nice course to start in term one because you'll be learning about what you'll be doing in terms of how you make decisions, how you learn, and the biases that we all have. So there's a broad range of different types of courses in year one. It's going to be the same in term two, in year two. But in year two, we tend to have more courses, but there'll be more courses within each area, so they can then specialize as a major in econ or a major in politics, for instance. I know this sounds really confusing, or it may sound really confusing. So you will have an advisor of studies, which is currently me, who will be at your beck and call if you want to discuss at any point by email or in person. I'm based in Paris, by the way, but I do make semi-regular trips to Lisbon. Or indeed, if you want to just jump on a video call like this, I will walk you through all the different possible simulations and scenarios as to what courses you want to do and also what that means for your major or minor choice. So you've always got someone there who will be able to help you. But the upshot is you just need 20 ECTS to be validated in your year one to be able to start a major in year two. And most courses are 6 ECTS, so you only need 4. So I just want to give you a flavor of some of these. I'm not going to spend too long talking about all this, but I just want to give you a flavor of the types of courses that we have. Now, of course, I'm going to start with the econ course. I'm very sorry about this, but I actually find it really exciting because the econ course that we have in the Open Bachelors at Ford College is very different from the econ course that we have in year one at the University of London course. Now, University of London course, I'm going to speak very objectively here, and I feel like I can speak with decent amount of truth and experience because I helped to write the benchmark statement that's currently in place for all UK universities about what should be taught in economics. Now, the current one that's being taught in the University of London is perhaps a bit more traditional, perhaps a bit more, a little bit more with a lag in terms of the current research corpus. And it's also a very fast-paced, rapid fire through kind of the traditional theory in microeconomics and then the traditional theory in macroeconomics. Now, you will get the same tools in the open bachelor's version of the econ course in year one, but we're going to introduce them to you in a different way. And we do that using the core econ syllabus. Now, what does this mean? It means that instead of starting with diagrams and equations and theory and then hoping by some miracle that it applies to the real world, and actually you find out most of the time it doesn't, the core econ will switch it around and say, okay, what are the things that we're actually facing? What, and using data and evidence to show this. Why is climate change a problem? What is the climate change problem? Why are we unable to coordinate in terms of the overuse of natural resources, for instance? So we have lots of different things that are going on which are interesting that we need to tackle, and we start from data and evidence, and then from that we start teaching you the concepts of economics like marginal costs or profit maximization or game theory concepts. So it's much more data driven, it's much more practical, and I would say it's also very interdisciplinary. And the approach that we have, we talk about game theory, and that leads us to talk about things like altruism and bias and being a rational person, but also it makes us think about fairness and ethics, but also history and how politics and history and science are all interlinked in terms of explaining why we have the world we have today and also the winners and losers of the past 300 years of global history. So it's a much more immersive approach to doing economics. And we also include with that we try to include as many guest talks and visits and kind of site experiences as we can. We try and take you to the economics in Lisbon, but also bring people into class. So for instance, this year we've had talks by someone who's a well-being expert to come to Lisbon to give a talk. And I will be giving a virtual invitation to someone who's coming from the Bank of England who I used to supervise as a PhD student, who is coming from their macro perspective of inflation targeting. So this is a really immersive approach to doing economics. In terms of assessments, how is it actually looking like? Well, we don't do final exams, or at least we don't just do final exams. Most universities will still do, or they'll still use a lot of final examinations where you do closed book, invigilated, you memorize things, and then 2 hours or 3 hours, you're confronted with lots of questions you have to answer in a closed book format, and that will determine most of your grade and then repeat for every course, for every term, for every year of your degree. Now, we don't think that's a very good way of doing assessment because one, it's putting all the emphasis onto one side at the very end of a course. So we want to give you some low stakes continuous assessment. So indeed, the first assessment in most open bachelor's courses is going to be a quiz. It's normally around 20% of the overall grade, but it's maybe an hour long. It's there to give you some early feedback, but also to give you some summative assessment to take away from the final piece. So it's typically a quiz, an assessment one. Assessment two is typically a take-home piece where we often encourage or indeed require you to use AI because if you're not in an invigilated setting, we assume that you'll be using tools to help you, and also we want you to be using tools to help your learning, and also we want you to be using the tools that you'll be using in a professional setting. I use AI every day in my work to help me with my research, to help me with my coding, to help me prepare teaching materials, to help me formulate emails sometimes. So this is a tool that we all use. So we want you to be starting to use it in the right way from the very beginning. So most courses will also have an AI component in them. And the final piece of assessment for most courses is going to be more like a case study, but in an invigilated setting. So you'll still have kind of an exam style experience, but it won't just be, answer these questions from memory. It will be giving you a scenario, giving you some materials. If it's the stats course, you'll be given some data and some output, and you'll have to analyze it in an invigilated setting. So it's a much more practical way of doing things. Anyway, I've talked too much about econ. I want to talk about other courses. I'm not, but same things will apply in terms of assessment. So in year two, management and innovation. So if you're doing management and innovation in year two, you have sustainability and social responsibility in business. So we can start to think about, okay, how can we start to address sustainability crisis through innovation, but also responsible practices by businesses? So we'll be looking at how you can take your knowledge from year one in terms of some of it's going to be very practical, some of it might be a bit more theoretical, but then you start to work with real world projects and thinking about, okay, what are the challenges? How can we work on this real world challenge? You'll be looking at case studies and indeed even have input, real input from local and global enterprises to give you some examples of scenarios that you'll have to be confronted with. And again, this is a very interdisciplinary course. You'll be, if you've done econ before, you can bring that into it. If you've done psychology before, you can bring that into it. And again, in year two, we have a host of different types of businesses that we have links with. So, for instance, we have quite a good link with L'Oreal. We have quite a good link with a few consultancy firms. We also have quite a few, I would say, startup startup individuals that we can then bring in to then give you some examples and some real world practice with. Again, assessment's going to be very simple. Very similar. There's still going to be a short component that's low stakes, but again, very practical. You'll be doing prototypes instead of doing data work, you'll be doing prototypes. But you also might be doing reflective pieces of reflecting on your own progress and also using something like an AI journal to then log and critically reflect on your use of AI to help you with this challenge. So that's what an example of what you might have in year two. And then I finally want to look at year three, which is a PIR course. So again, we haven't talked about PIR a lot, and that's not the poor relation. PIR is a very popular major, both within the Open Bachelors and also as a degree at Ford College. We have a lot of really talented fellows here in the PIR field. So, for instance, instead of doing a typical kind of PIR course, which would be quite theoretical, doing lots of reading, you would still be doing all the readings and having the theoretical rigor, but you'll be using it and evidencing it in a way that's much more practical. So, for instance, with conflict and cooperation, you're going to be diving into the actual heart of how people are cooperating and how to solve conflict in a global setting. And you'll be simulating it through role plays as diplomats or as negotiators. And you'll be using real world current events to help motivate or indeed simulate the kinds of things that you'll be looking at in theory and then putting them straight into practice. Again, if you've done psychology before, if you've done economics before, and even if you haven't, all these things are brought into the space to think about the subject of politics in a very critical and interdisciplinary manner. And again, we have lots of guest talks and people coming in. We do have quite a few good links. So we have I'm not going to name drop them, but we have one fellow in particular who has quite a lot of experience as a diplomat. So they are very good in terms of being able to design things like this. So that's an idea of the types of courses, but we also have other things going on here as well. So I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of two other things. So one of them is going to be on project-based learning, or as we call it PBL. Now, if you are doing management and innovation, this is a required part of your major. But even if you're doing PIR or econ or data science, you can still elect to do a minor in these courses. And effectively, what you will do is you'll be training yourself in being able to do a very practical thing by the end of it. So in year one, you're doing social impact and sustainability. You'll be learning about design thinking and systems thinking, innovation by design. And we have, again, some talented fellows who have been innovators and designers and change people to try and think about, to try to equip you with the skills that you'll need to think about on a practical level how to address global problems. In year two, you'll have digital entrepreneurship, and that's going to be kind of building prototypes And we have a digital boot camp in year two, which is also part of this, which is where you'll get real people coming in and you'll be doing a sprint basically for a week to actually design a real world project. And I'll show you a couple of those in a second. And then year three, you'll be taking these skills and then you and consulting with real companies to solve real problems that they have, and they are happy to let us as Ford College give to you, our students, to solve and work on. So this is starting in year one in kind of a sandbox mode, learning the skills. Year two, you're kind of developing things, doing a prototype and making sure you're up to speed. Year three, you're doing it for real with real companies and real partners. So this is not a simulation, this is a real exercise. So that's a really interesting thing. If you want to do it, I really highly recommend it. And I think on the next slide, there's a couple of examples of real projects that have taken place. So Mintensity was one from, so there was a group of students in my first ever cohort. I've been here for, this is my third year at Ford College, and Mintensity was created by the first ever cohort that I taught. And they were looking at how you can look at leveraging green energy at different times of the day, according to what appliances you're using, and also giving you live feedback on that as well. So it was a really interesting project. And by the way, that project got real funding. So they created a prototype and they ended up presenting it, and then someone invested real money into them and actually, put their money where their mouth is. So that's up and running. And then there's another one by my second cohort that I taught, which is No Cap, No Crap, which is a fun title. But it's really to try, it's the way to try and get to the heart of whether news is actually accurate or not, whether it's being misreported on. Again, these are things that are reflecting our real challenges that we have. And then the final thing I want to talk to you about is personal development. So again, you've got imagine you're in the open bachelor's, you're doing a major in economics or a major in politics and international relations, but you might also want to have a minor in leadership. Now, this would effectively look like essentially doing in year one, doing some social intelligence. So we have a course on social intelligence. Well, we have two of them actually, which will develop your effective communication, your collaboration, your influence and negotiation. And if you want to keep doing the leadership courses, you'll then in year two do emotional intelligence. So thinking about your self-awareness, which is super underreported or underestimated how important they are in terms of being able to work as a professional, or to work as an academic. You need to be able to think about how you can be resilient, how to manage stress, how to have courage to speak up, to confront things, to do daring things. So it's a really important piece of training you can do. And then in final year three, we do leadership. I started, I think, just over 10 years ago as a junior academic, and I'm now the director of learning and teaching. So yeah, I've had to learn a lot of leadership on the job, and I didn't have any formal training in this. So if you can get this training, it will stand you in really good stead across your degree. And just comparing it to other university degrees, how many other university degrees will allow you to have an academically challenging and rigorous treatment of the subject you're interested in, whilst also allowing you to be flexible, whilst also giving the option of working with real partners, whilst also developing your personal skills. Not many, I would say, really not many. And also the year three will also be a career readiness. So you'll get coaching on your CV, internships, you'll get feedback, you'll get personal one-to-one coaching all the way through if you do personal development. So it's a lot. It's an awful lot, but also I think it's a really exciting blend of academic rigor, practical intelligence, emotional intelligence, and being able to, yeah, bring it all together. Right, that sounds nice. Now, what does it look like? I'll try and be brief at this point because I'm aware I've talked for quite a while. Term one is 11 weeks long. It runs from September to December. We have 1 week as a reading week. It's a week where basically we have no classes and it allows you to catch up. You'll be doing 5 courses if it's the Open Bachelor's, single bachelor's. So that's four courses plus one language course. And essentially, it looks like on average 10 hours of seminars and workshops per week. But on top of that, you'll have tutoring, which is a one-to-one session with your academic fellow. But it also might be personal tutoring, so you'll have one-to-one sessions with your personal tutor to kind of look at you, from a pastoral sense of things. How are things going with settling into your university studies and your general approach to learning. You'll be looking at team debriefing, especially if you're doing team projects in the project-based learning courses. You'll be doing assessments, and also might be going to peer mentoring classes. So we have senior students in year 2 and year 3 coming in either physically or virtually, or alumni who will be coming in either physically or virtually to your space and to Lisbon to give you additional classes on top of what your fellows are doing. They might be additional skill sessions like how to write essays, how to take notes, but also could be very targeted things on like how to do certain things in different subjects. And these are often co-designed with academic fellows and peer mentors. So these are really valuable sessions that we have for year 1 students. So it's term 1, then there's a 3-week break over the winter. So we finish up around mid-December, start again up in early January. 11 weeks again, 1 reading week, same again. You'll have a 1-week break. I think it's actually 2 weeks this year around. And then you'll do term 3. Term 3 is going to be, you'll do 2 things. You'll do a capstone project and you'll do a professional certification. Now, in year 1, we might be a bit more specific in terms of what professional certification we would like you to do, but we'll still try and give you some options around it because essentially it might be very useful in terms of what you want to do in year 2. But when you specialize into your major, you'll be doing this same kind of pattern again in term 3. You'll be able to do professional certifications in econ or in PIR, etc. The capstone project is something that brings you all together to tackle a real world problem of our choosing. You're working groups in small teams to work on a response to our question or our problem statement, and you'll then present it in a symposium to everyone. And that will be the way that you'll end your first year by bringing all of your knowledge together across all of the different courses you've done and apply it to something very interesting. So it's a busy year. It's a busy year, but it's going to be hopefully very rewarding at the same time. I'm not going to spend too much longer on this, but just to say given the fact that we mix the academic rigor with the practical skills, there are a lot of options open to you as an open bachelor's graduate, and the options open to you are also a function of what courses you choose and what majors you choose. Again, this is something we can talk about on a one-to-one basis, and we'll have careers advisors to help you as well. But essentially, we will get you to where you want to be. It's also just a function of what you want to do in terms of what courses you choose. Right, I'm going to say something very short on teaching. So this all sounds great, but who on earth is going to deliver it? And this also is a case of who, or what makes Ford College unique. Um, I'm not in so there's a list of teachers here. Don't worry, I've seen this slide before, but I just wanted to make the joke of, these are some of our wonderful fellows, and I'm not one of them apparently, but that's fine. That's fine. Um, we have really good fellows, and I will say that having worked with almost all of them, and in some cases having appointed some of these new fellows, we are very rigorous in our selection of who we want to have because we want to bring a blend of fit to doing something differently, but also coming from really good backgrounds in terms of their PhD. So Rory has been with Ford for a long time, since probably I think the start. Both he and I are from the University of Stirling, which is quite funny. Um, but he's also had experience in Nottingham and in China as well. He's taught in China for a couple of years. Mariana in Econ in year 1, who will teach the stats course. She's had her degree from Maastricht. Soazic from the University de Paris, St. Andrews, Harvard. We've also got and it's also a range of different types of individuals. So again, we want to try and give you a blend of people who are academically rigorous, but also have different strings to their bow. So Stephanie is, for instance, has held positions at the United Nations. And, if you look at Anita, who's in Berlin in year three, she's had and still is a researcher at a couple of other universities, as well as being at Forward. So again, it's a broad range of experience, but also high quality teaching. The other thing to say that makes us different is the fact that we don't teach you by doing what I'm doing now, which is just speaking at you and you just listening. We do very little of this, or we try to do as little of it as possible. Most of our courses, most of the time, will reflect a flipped classroom format, which means we'll give you the readings to do, or the videos to watch, or the podcasts to listen to, or the activities to do in advance of coming to class. We have seminars, no lectures, seminars only in small groups, and then you'll come to class and you'll do lots of activities with your fellow in a small class setting, which is typically around 15 or lower. So I think many of the Open Bachelor's courses at the minute are around 10, 12 in some cases. And year two, I'm teaching not on the Open Bachelor's, but it's a Forward College mantra that we do small group teaching. I'm currently teaching 10 students, which means you get a very intimate and very close relationship with your fellow and with each other. And it means that you're working in a very team orientated way in terms of going through the material and applying it. So for instance, I do lots of experiments with my students, I do games, I do lots of interactions, presentations, but also you've got the different things like project-based learning, etc. So all of this will be coming your way, but just to say, not only do we have a very different degree program, we also have a very different way of teaching that's very applied, a very small group, and very interactive.
Very much, Paul. This was very insightful. And myself, as a student, when I was finishing high school, I wasn't too sure about what I wanted to do. I knew that I passionate about so many different areas of studies that and I had the opportunity to do the open bachelor's back then, I would have really liked it. Now we are going to go on to the student experience part of webinar, and we have Lauren here, who can give you really the most truthful insight into what it is to be a student at Forward College. So, Lauren, whenever you're ready.
Perfect, thank you. So yeah, I'm going to be giving a brief student perspective on what it means to be a part of Forward. I do want to preface that I'm only my first year, so I've only really experienced Forward through Lisbon. But I will try my best to kind of encapsulate what Forward is trying to do through Paris and Berlin, as well as just talking about student life, which is something that I'm sure a lot of prospective students are interested in. So we can go over to the next. Oh wait, we'll stay here. So yeah, so we start in Lisbon. Right now the Lisbon weather is a bit more rainy than expected, but typically this is a really safe choice for students in saying that it's their favorite. The weather, the beach, the friendly Portuguese people everywhere. It's really kind of a paradise experience in your first few months, getting to know everyone. So we have our two campuses in central Lisbon in Baixa. And here they're more like co-working spaces and they're more of a learning center. Yeah, so we can kind of look through. So this is the front view of our first building, that's Flourish. And this is inside of Flourish. So this is one of our learning centers. I study here all the time with my friends. We might grab a coffee, focus before an economics course. And here is our classroom. So you can see how small the classes are here. So they definitely can't fit a traditional like 200 students in the classroom. They really are meant to be smaller and more interactive for the students. Here's one of our patios over at Flourish. And if you look here, this is our second learning center. So this one opened up this year. It's about a 10-minute walk from the other campus. And this is also a very popular study spot. We also host a lot of speakers and lectures here. So as we were talking about earlier, we had a well-being expert come over. And this is the terrace at Soriano. Um, you can get a lot of sunlight. And we also have meditation rooms. So one of our favorite places to kind of wind down after class or take a nap. Um, Here's another view of our learning center. And then one of our favorite rooms is the so this meditation room is at the Flourish Center. So we have two, and these are meant to be spaces for students to kind of get to know each other a little better. Again, we're very community oriented, so the school does a really good job about fostering an environment for students to really connect with one another outside of school and inside of school. So interestingly enough, in our student accommodation, so the first year, we're all really encouraged to be in the same accommodation. This is completely optional, but we do have the option. And sorry, if we could go back to the co-working space really quick. Yeah. So in our accommodation, we're provided this room where we get to study, and we can kind of use it as like a library and a working area. So here we have club events being hosted. Sometimes we throw birthday parties in here, or we might just watch a movie with some friends. So it's kind of a really dynamic area where we're encouraged to kind of get comfortable with one another again, but a little closer to home. And then, yeah, so we had the accommodation up. So this is what a typical room at the student accommodation in Lisbon will look like. It has an ensuite, which is probably one of my favorite aspects to the room, but it is highly recommended. I've had a great experience being in the residence. I've built some of my closest friendships through my neighbors and anyone around the building, and it's a very international environment outside of Forward as well. So it's something that you might not get from a traditional university. And so student life, obviously one of the biggest drawing factors to Lisbon is definitely the beach, especially when the weather is nice. We have a surfing club here at Forward, as well as a run club that typically runs along the beach. So it's really a great place for students to kind of connect with nature and enjoy a slow pace of life before we move on to Paris. So Paris is the second year. It's a little different from compared to Berlin and Lisbon because we are located in Cité Universitaire, which is a university within Paris in the 12th arrondissement. It's more typical, or it's a bit more of a typical university experience. So we're going to be interacting with students from other universities that will be on the same campus. And the accommodations are also provided on campus. So this is what one of the libraries look like. I haven't had the chance to visit yet, but from what I've heard, it's gorgeous and it's a very popular tourist attraction. And yeah, so in the next slide, the sports are also a very attractive aspect of Paris. We're allowed to, we have the ability to join different sports clubs that are a part of Cité Universitaire. And so there's obviously badminton here, there's tennis courts, swimming pools, and yes, so here's the residence. This is also on campus. And here you're able to meet all kinds of different students because we're not just going to be with Ford students. And there are multiple buildings across campus to really get to know one another. And from what I've heard, there's also a lot of parks to just kind of maybe lay in the sun or get to know other people. And yeah, so the student life in Paris definitely speaks for itself. I think Paris is a really attractive option for students when they're looking at Forward. There's a lot of galleries, a lot of museums, a lot of art for students that are interested in these like creative areas, as well as as well as just chances to socialize with one another, especially because we're on an unconventional campus. Paris is also a very well-connected city, so not only are we already in Paris, but it's really easy to get around and explore new areas of the city. And so our third year will be in Berlin. I was actually able to visit the Berlin campus for about like 5 minutes last year, so I can kind of speak on this. So the Berlin campus is based in Kreuzberg, which is one of the most lively neighborhoods in Berlin. This campus is actually in a co-working space, so there's a lot of different startups and companies that are sharing the building with us. So this is what our learning center looks like. We have a communal kitchen, obviously spaces for the students to work, and I think this is the cafe downstairs that I haven't been able to check out just yet. I'm very excited to. We also have, so again, more co-working spaces, more of a learning center so students can focus. Berlin opens up a lot more opportunity for students in terms of career and internships. Obviously, we're in our third year, but Berlin is definitely the most international city out of the three. So here, I think students tend to find a lot more opportunity in like career advancement. These are one of the lectures. And then again, the CIC. And then this is the Berlin student accommodation. So the third year, students are given a little more independence and choice in what accommodations they are looking for. So the school has a partnership with an agency in Berlin to help students find WGs or flat shares in Berlin. So this is one of the examples. And again, the student life in Berlin, Berlin is notorious for their art scene and as well as their nightlife. So this is a huge drawing factor. A lot of students really do, as much as they enjoy Lisbon, I think Berlin is also a very popular option for the students because everyone is really starting to gain a lot of independence and you'll never be bored in Berlin. So.
Hey, Lauren, thank
yeah,
you.
thank
Thank you very much for sharing a bit of your experience as a student at Forward College. I can speak for the Lisbon part. So I'm Portuguese. I've been living here all my life. And it really is sunny through most of the year, except for right now. But hopefully the sun will be back soon. Thank you so much, Lauren. So, going on with our presentation, we have the employability factor. As you can see here from this graph, after our students graduate from Forward College, about half of them go on to the labor market. So they start working either through internships or through actual junior positions in some of the most recognized companies in the world. As you can see here, we do have some more data on which companies have been receiving most of our students. If you go to our website, we have a dedicated section regarding employability. And then 47% of our students choose to go on immediately to their master's programs. As you can see from this slide, many of them are accepted into several very prestigious universities, both in Europe and beyond. So if you check out international rankings and European rankings, you will find most of these universities. And this really shows that Forward College opens many doors for you, not only in terms of education and of where your educational path can go, but also in terms of employability. Regarding admissions specifically, you have here a few of the academic requirements here for the most widely known international curriculums, but we have a section on our website that has all of the possible curriculums in the world, where you can check out if your own is eligible, is considered eligible to apply, and what are the minimum requirements. One particularity about the open bachelors is that we do accept most of the diplomas all over the world. So there is a very good chance that your own diploma could be eligible. We do encourage you to apply. There is no application fee, so just submit all of your documents so we can make a thorough assessment of your curriculum and of your qualifications so far, and we will let you know what are the next steps to follow and whether you are eligible. Right now, we are on our third wave of applications for the 2026 intake. So we really advise you to apply at your earliest convenience. There's been 2 waves already. And since we teach in very small class sizes and our cohort tends to be quite with not that many students as in a traditional university, we do advise you to apply as soon as you can, as soon as you have gathered all of your documentation. As you can see here, the process is entirely done online. So if you go to our website, you will just need to create an account and then start filling out our application form. There's mainly 2 documents that we need from you in this initial stage. So academic transcripts, whether you have already finished high school or you are currently finishing it, we ask for you to submit your transcripts of records for the past 2 terms. If you have for the past 2 years, then perfect. It helps us assess your eligibility. And also in terms of the English proficiency, as you know, all of our degrees are fully taught in English, so we need to make sure that our students and prospective students have a good level of English so they can both understand everything that they learn in classes and can also do the assessments with a proper level of English. So if you do not have an English proficiency certificate yet, you get to the certificate more or less until the beginning of the academic year. So we would advise until the end of July 2026. Apart from this, so this is more of the academic part, we also ask for you to tell us a bit about what you do outside of the classroom. So which activities, which projects you are involved in that you think have been important in shaping who you are right now. And aside from this, we also ask for a reflective essay, meaning we ask for you to tell us how did these activities and projects impact you as a person, as a student? What motivated you to apply for Forward College, for your degrees of choice? And what you think not only that Forward could give to you, but that you could give to Forward as a student here. After you submit your application, you will be advised to book a student conversation with one of our student ambassadors. If you choose to apply for the open bachelors, it's likely that you will have a conversation with Lauren here, and this is a good practice for the interview. So you can ask not only about student life, student experience, but also about the program structure itself, what is expected of students, what you yourself can expect from classes at the open bachelors. After this initial assessment takes place, you will receive a decision. This decision, if positive, means that you will be invited for an admissions interview, which is around 30 minutes long. It will be with one of our interviewers, and it will be mostly about your motivations for joining Forward. And not only if you are a good fit for Forward, but if Forward is also a good fit for you. So this is a very good time, not only to talk a bit more about yourself and your aspirations in life, but also to pose questions to the interviewers and get to know a bit more about the college itself. So, it's pretty close right now. We will be having two open days in Paris very soon. So, March 28th and March 30th. You can sign up for these open days on our website if you go to the events tab. It will take place during the afternoon, and it's a great opportunity for you not only to get to know the campus where if you apply, you will get to spend your second year of studies, but also to get to know some of our fellows, get to know some of the staff with admissions, chat with current students, and really get a feel of what it is like to be a forward college student. So I really advise you, if you can, to stop by Paris in late March and late May. Sorry, I believe I said March 20th and 30th. It's March 28th and May 30th. So if you can drop by, please do register and have a 1 day experience of what it's like to be a student at Forward College. So we are now over with our presentation. If you have any questions, you can write them in our chat. Feel free, either questions for me from admissions, or for Lauren or for Paul. So whatever you wish to ask us, you are free to do so. We do host a few webinars quite frequently. So if you go to our events page on the website, you can check out which are the next ones and sign up for the ones that interest you the most. As I mentioned previously, we are currently on our third wave of applications. This third wave will end in late March, but we do advise you to apply as soon as possible. If you are going or thinking about requesting financial aid, it's also a great opportunity to apply as soon as possible, since our resources are limited to a point. So the earlier you apply, the best your chances are of being considered for financial aid. Okay, it seems like no one has questions so far. If you do, you are welcome to contact us via email, via social media, whatever you prefer. You have our full admissions and recruitment team here, so any of us will be more than glad to help you with any questions whatsoever. We hope this webinar was helpful for you. Thank you very much, Lauren. Thank you very much, Paul. And see you next time.